He had walked past her hundreds of times without ever learning her name. To Ethan Caldwell, the billionaire CEO of Caldwell Technologies, she was simply the cleaning lady. Every morning before dawn, she pushed her heavy cart through the polished marble hallways, quietly emptying trash bins and wiping down glass doors. She never asked for attention. She never complained. She simply worked, becoming almost invisible against the luxury of the massive corporate building. Most employees, busy with their high-paying jobs and stressful deadlines, barely noticed her, including Ethan. He was a man who measured the world in profit margins, stock prices, and executive titles. To him, people in uniform were just part of the background. But on a cold October evening, a single rainy night changed everything he thought he knew about strength, dignity, and the human heart. After finishing a tense, hours-long meeting with demanding investors, Ethan stopped by St. Mary's Hospital to visit a wealthy business partner recovering from minor surgery. He expected a quick, polite visit before heading back to his luxury penthouse. Instead, as he walked through the quiet, sterile corridors of the hospital, he found himself standing frozen outside a semi-private room. Inside sat the quiet cleaning lady from his office. Her shoulders trembled violently as she held the pale, thin hand of an elderly woman lying weakly in the hospital bed. Tears streamed down her cheeks, catching the harsh fluorescent light. A doctor stood nearby, speaking gently but firmly. He explained that without immediate, specialized treatment, her mother's condition would continue to worsen rapidly, leaving her with only a few weeks. The young woman nodded silently, trying to swallow the lump in her throat, and whispered that she understood. When the doctor asked about insurance or if she could afford the massive upfront costs of the treatment, she lowered her eyes in absolute shame and whispered, "No." The raw pain in her voice hit Ethan harder than any business loss ever had. For some reason, his feet felt glued to the floor. He couldn't walk away. The woman in this hospital room looked so completely different from the quiet, robotic employee he saw every day sweeping his floors. He heard her whisper to her mother, forcing a brave smile through her tears, promising that she would figure it out somehow because she had promised her late father she would always take care of her. Hearing her mother call her Emily gave Ethan her name for the very first time. That night, the image of Emily crying by that bedside kept him awake for hours. The next morning, driven by a strange sense of curiosity, Ethan arrived at the office unusually early. He saw Emily already there, exhausting herself, wiping fingerprints from the glass entrance. She had dark circles under her eyes, yet she still greeted a passing security guard with a genuine warm smile. Ethan suddenly felt a deep wave of shame wash over him. How many times had he looked right through her? Later that day, Ethan called Human Resources, demanding to know everything about Emily Parker. The manager was shocked that the billionaire CEO was asking about a cleaning staff member. The records showed she had worked there for 6 years with perfect attendance, 0 complaints, and a habit of volunteering for every miserable midnight shift available. Remarkably, despite earning minimum wage, she regularly donated small amounts from her paycheck to the company's annual charity drives. The realization hit Ethan heavily. The woman struggling to buy extra days for her dying mother was still trying to save strangers, while his executives making hundreds of thousands of dollars always looked the other way. Over the next few weeks, Ethan started inventing excuses to visit that hospital floor, gradually breaking down Emily's cautious walls. He learned she had abandoned her college education and her own bright future the moment her father died, taking multiple cleaning jobs and skipping meals just to fund her mother's medical needs, never once becoming bitter about the hand life dealt her. When he asked what she had wanted to study, her eyes lit up for a fraction of a second as she said architecture, because she loved designing structures that lasted. But then she laughed softly, saying life happened. That phrase stayed with Ethan. He began to hate how he had spent his entire life valuing people based on their bank accounts. One morning, Emily didn't show up for work for the first time in 6 years. Sensing something was terribly wrong, Ethan bypassed his meetings and drove straight to the hospital, finding her collapsed on a chair outside the intensive care unit, crying with a kind of absolute defeat that comes when a person has completely run out of options. The doctors had found a severe complication, and the treatment had to start that very day. But she had already sold her father's old truck, borrowed from everyone she knew, and had nothing left to give. Ethan said nothing, but the very next morning, Emily was called into the administrator's office. Expecting to be told her mother was being discharged due to non-payment, she walked in trembling. Instead, the administrator smiled and informed her that an anonymous donor had stepped forward and fully funded the entire treatment. Emily broke down, sobbing tears of pure relief, begging for a name, but the official kept Ethan's secret. Watching from the hallway window, Ethan felt a sense of fulfillment that no billion-dollar corporate merger had ever given him. Months passed, the treatment worked beautifully, and Emily's mother fully recovered. Shortly after, Emily was called up to the top-floor executive corner office. Terrified she was being fired, she walked in, only for Ethan to hand her a thick leather folder. Inside was a full, unconditional scholarship to the city's top architecture school, covering every single expense. When she wept, stating she couldn't possibly accept such life-changing charity from him. Ethan simply replied that the world couldn't afford to lose a great architect just because life got in the way. Emily looked up at him, her voice cracking as she whispered that he was the only person who ever truly saw her. But looking back at her, Ethan knew the truth was the exact opposite. She was the one who had finally taught a billionaire how to see Dot. If this story touched your heart, take a moment to think about how often great people are judged solely by their job titles, their clothes, or their financial circumstances. Emily was completely invisible to almost everyone around her. People only saw a cleaning lady, missing the devoted daughter, the sacrificed dreams, and the incredible, unbreakable strength she carried inside her every single day. Sometimes the strongest individuals among us are fighting silent battles that no one else knows anything about. A simple act of recognition, respect, or compassion can rewrite someone's entire destiny. Have you ever been underestimated, ignored, or judged unfairly because of your job or your current situation? Share your personal journey in the comments below, because we would truly love to read how you overcame those challenges. And if you believe that human kindness matters far more than social status, please take a second to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and turn on all notifications so you never miss these emotional stories of courage, resilience, and life-changing karma. Until next time, remember to never underestimate someone simply because the world overlooks them. Sometimes the quietest people carry the most extraordinary stories.